What will the Chicago Bears do with pick number 9? After trading Justin Fields, it's time for a new era of football in Chicago. And maybe now we can focus more on the most important offseason in Bears history and talk about real football conversations and move on past the quarterback talk. For instance, what to do with pick number 9? A topic that has not been discussed nearly enough this offseason. Today I want to break down the 4 most realistic options for pick number 9 and what I think Ryan Poles will do. Let's get right into it. If we stay at number 9, I believe there are only 3 positions that Ryan Poles would consider drafting: wide receiver, defensive end, or offensive tackle. I do not see him taking Brock Bowers in the top 10, especially with Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett on the roster already. So picking in the top 10, Ryan Poles puts an emphasis on premium positions. Wide receiver, edge rusher, and tackle, those are all premium positions and could potentially upgrade the roster as well. We need another edge rusher, we need at least one more wideout, and we need more talent on the offensive line as well. So I wouldn't argue with either one. The 4th option, and the one that I believe is the most realistic, would be trading down from that 9 pick. Let me break it down in a bit more detail. I think the only way we stay at number 9 is if by some miracle wideout Rome Odunze is still on the board. If that happens, Ryan Poles should just run up to the podium and turn the pick in. Odunze is an absolute stud, but I think the odds of him being there are pretty slim. But crazier things have happened in the NFL draft. If Ryan Poles were able to walk away from round 1 with Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze, I would give him an A+ and not even worry about getting more picks. However, since I think the odds of that happening are pretty low, that changes how I feel about that number 9 spot. With only 4 picks in the entire draft, and 3 if we take Caleb number 1 overall, I think it's imperative that Poles trades down out of that number 9 pick. It almost makes too much sense. We need more picks, and there should be at least a handful of teams interested in coming up to number 9. So this is where it gets interesting, and why I think a trade down makes so much sense. Let's look at the players that should be on the board around pick number 9. If the draft goes how I expect, the first 8 picks should come out roughly like this: 3 quarterbacks, Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Jaden Daniels. 3 wide receivers, Marvin Harrison Jr., Rome Odunze, and Malik Neighbors. And then I think 1 tackle and 1 edge rusher, most likely Joe Alt and Dallas Turner. The wild card that could go up there in the top 8 is J.J. McCarthy. If a team like the Vikings or Broncos move up and take J.J. McCarthy ahead of us, the chances of Joe Alt or Rome Odunze falling to us go up significantly. But most likely I don't see Odunze on the board. So this means if the Bears are going to go edge, wide receiver, or tackle like I predicted, here are the options at each position. At defensive end, you have probably 3 guys that Ryan Poles would be looking for in this range: Dallas Turner, Jared Verse, and Liatu Latu. I think one of those guys probably gets picked by the Falcons, most likely Dallas Turner. And then I don't know how much of a fit Liatu Latu is with Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus. Jared Verse would be the guy, with other options like Chop Robinson, Darius Robinson, Chris Broswell, and more if he were to trade down. And then what about the wide receiver position? We all know the big 3. And then there are still a lot of big-time guys Poles could land after that: Brian Thomas Jr., Adonai Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, Keon Coleman. All 4 of those guys should go in the first round. I think Brian Thomas Jr. could go in the top 15. No telling how high Xavier Worthy could go after drafting a 4-2-1, but I don't know if I want to be the team that takes him. Adonai Mitchell should be a first-round lock, and don't forget about Keon Coleman and some of the other guys either. Number 9 might be a bit too high to take the 4th receiver, but it's a perfect opportunity for Poles to trade down, collect some additional assets, and still land a really talented wideout after trading down. And what about offensive tackle? What if Poles wants to protect Caleb with his 2nd first-round pick? The options at tackle are Joe Alt, J.C. Latham, Olu Fashanu, Tali Fuaga, and Troy Futanu. Joe Alt is most likely gone. But the best part about this is tackle position is just like wide receiver. 2 of my favorite guys are Tali Fuaga and Troy Futanu. And if Poles wants a tackle, he should be able to trade down and still land one of those awesome prospects at tackle as well. So while the options at number 9 could be really intriguing, with only 2 other picks remaining after that pick, and nothing until pick number 75, a trade down from pick number 9 almost seems inevitable. Even more to that point, if Ryan Poles trades out of the top 10, he could also then consider some of the positions that aren't considered premium. This would be where fans of Jackson Powers Johnson or Jerzon Newton come into play. Poles could trade back into the late teens or even into the 20s and still potentially land a stud prospect at center, defensive tackle, wide receiver, edge, or offensive tackle. There's a ton of guys that are still going to be on the board if we trade down. We have Jackson Powers Johnson and Zach Frazier, two awesome options at the center position, a ton of wide receiver options, quite a few edge rushers, and a bunch of offensive tackles. The talent in the first round is, in my opinion, about 40 players deep, if not more, this year. It's not a draft where you're going to find a lot of starters in the 5th or 6th rounds, but the top 50 to 75 players are more talented than normal years. Scouts agree on this, and I think Ryan Poles' goal in this one should be to try to land another top 50 pick by trading down from number 9. If he can accomplish that and then add a couple more players that I like, I think it would be a huge win for this franchise going forward. Ryan Poles just made one of the biggest decisions in franchise history, deciding to move on from Justin Fields and most likely select Caleb Williams. Whoever Poles decides to bring in at the quarterback position will be entering under substantially better conditions than any previous signal caller we've drafted. Hopefully we can get it right this time, and hopefully Ryan Poles is able to nail the rest of this draft. I think my biggest point of this one is there are a ton of options at number 9. I do think Rome Odunze would be perfect if somehow he fell, but I think the odds are stacked against us no matter what the mock drafts say. Most likely, Rome Odunze goes in the top 6 picks. I do think there's a chance Malik Neighbors could be there, but I still would prefer to trade down. I'm a huge fan of Keon Coleman. I really love Adonai Mitchell and Brian Thomas Jr. This wide receiver class is stacked, so if we don't get Marvin Harrison Jr. or Rome Odunze, I think we need to trade down. But I wouldn't be mad if we pick Neighbors either. Stay tuned, guys. I have a ton more content on the way. Please remember to hit that like button for me, and until next time, bear down.
I've told you before, I'm a fan. This is our second meeting. You are nice, all right? You are nice with yours, all right?